In this video, we are going to review what has been learned from Unit 4, Lessons 5 through 9. To complete this review, you will need your iControl student workbook and something to write with. If you do not have what you need at this time, please pause the video and press play when you're ready to continue. If you do not need to view all of the lessons in this video, feel free to skip to the lessons you need to view using the start times provided. So far, you have learned about the first two steps in the CNTRL problem-solving process. C, check for a problem, and N, name the problem and the goal. In Lesson 5, you will learn about the third problem-solving step, T, think of solutions. Let's take a moment to think about how we can use our brain skills to T, think of solutions, using handout 5.1 in your student workbook. You will have two opportunities to complete this maze. You will have 15 seconds to complete the maze the first time and 1 minute the second. When I say go, you may begin. When I say stop, put your pencil down and stop working. Pause the video while you locate handout 5.1. When you're ready to begin, press play. Go. Stop. Let's try to complete the maze again, but this time you have 1 minute. Go. Stop. I bet the second time around, you felt like you had more time to finish, could stop to think about what you were doing, and didn't get as nervous. That is because this activity had you use several of your brain skills. You had to control your emotions to keep calm, use impulse control to go through the maze carefully, and keep the goal of reaching the end of the maze in mind using your working memory. You will use these same skills to think of a solution to a problem. Sometimes when we have a problem, we do whatever pops into our mind first. This may seem like the easiest thing to do, but lots of times, the first thing we think of can make a problem worse. For example, Leo's friend wants to borrow some lunch money, but he only has enough for himself and his friend won't stop bothering him about it. So, the first solution Leo thinks of is to push his friend and tell him off. This is not the best solution because Leo could get into trouble and could ruin his friendship. If Leo stopped to think, he probably could come up with another solution. When thinking of a solution to a problem, you use working memory to keep the goal in mind and think of how you could remove the barrier and achieve the goal or solve the problem. For example, when Leo was really frustrated with his friend and couldn't think of other solutions, he could have used one of the emotion control strategies to help calm him down. Brainstorming is one of the strategies you can use to come up with solutions. Brainstorming means that you come up with as many solutions as you can, even if they seem silly at first. Sometimes brainstorming can be hard to do on your own, but you can use your resources to help you. For instance, you could talk to a friend or an adult to help you come up with ideas about how to solve your problem. Let's practice brainstorming together. A student calls you names during computer lab, and you don't like it. What are some of the possible solutions? You could call them names back, ignore them, calmly ask them to stop, or go ask the teacher to move you to a different computer away from that person. On handout 5.7 in your student workbook, take a moment to read the scenario and brainstorm as many solutions as possible. Pause the video while you practice brainstorming. When you're done, press play. Let's turn to the content questions for Unit 4, Lesson 5 in your iControl student workbook to check your understanding of this lesson. Pause the video while you answer the questions. When you're done, press play. For question 1, if you selected C, you're correct. T, think of a solution, means to come up with several possible ways to solve a problem. For question 2, if you selected A, you're correct. One strategy for thinking of solutions is brainstorming. In Lesson 6, you'll learn other strategies, besides brainstorming, to help you think of solutions. Brainstorming may not be the best way to solve every problem, even if you still reach out to a friend or an adult, so we will learn 2 other ways to come up with solutions to a problem. First, you can use the what worked before strategy to think of solutions. In this strategy, you think about a similar problem you had in the past and how you solved it. You think of a past solution and decide if it can fit your current situation. For example, Kristen forgot her math homework just like she forgot her reading homework once before. She remembered talking to her teacher before class, who agreed she could bring it in the next day. She thinks this could be a possible solution for her current problem with her math homework. Another strategy you can use to help you think of a solution is called What Would Someone Else Do? In this strategy, you think of how someone else, who is successful at solving problems, would solve the problem. For example, it could be your mom, your coach, or maybe an older cousin. Let's say Michelle is annoyed by the kid sitting behind her in class because he is constantly hitting her chair with his foot when she is trying to write. She thinks about how her older sister, who has done well dealing with other kids at school, would handle this situation. She decides to ask him nicely to stop because that is what she thinks her sister would do. Let's practice using all 3 strategies: brainstorming, what worked before, and what someone else would do to think of solutions. Locate handout 6.2 in your student workbook. Read the scenario and check for a problem. N, name the problem and the goal, and think of solutions using the 3 different strategies. Don't forget, brainstorming means you come up with as many solutions as you can, even if they seem silly at first. Pause the video while you complete the activity. When you're done, press play. Remember, in all of the problem-solving strategies, you are using your brain skills. Use shifting to change the way you think. Use working memory to keep your goal, strategy, and solution in mind and use it. And use impulse control to avoid choosing the first solution that comes to mind. Let's turn to the content questions for Unit 4, Lesson 6 in your iControl student workbook to check your understanding of this lesson. Pause the video while you answer the questions. When you're done, press play. For question 1, if you selected B, you're correct. When you use the what worked before strategy, you use a solution from a past situation to find solutions for a current problem. For question 2, if you selected A, you're correct. With the what would someone else do strategy, you imagine how a person who is good at solving problems would solve the problem. Now that you have learned how to check for a problem, N, name the problem and the goal, and think of solutions, you'll learn how to R, respond with a plan, in Lesson 7. But first, let's review how the CNT in CNTRL works in real-world situations. Let's think about the game of tic-tac-toe. When you play the game, you have to think of different solutions for each match because you usually play the same person multiple times. This slide shows an example of my game where I was the X. My problem was that my opponent blocked me from getting 3 in a row down the middle column, but my goal was to win the game. I have multiple options, but had to decide which was best. If I went with the first solution I thought of, I would have put an X in the middle box of the far right column and would have lost the game. As you can see, I had an opportunity to win with an X in the left corner, and by evaluating my solutions, I was able to get 3 in a row and win the game. The next step in CNTRL is R, respond with a plan. To respond effectively to a situation, you use 2 important skills. 1, evaluate all solutions you come up with, and 2, choose a solution and come up with a plan. For now, let's focus just on the first part, learning how to evaluate solutions just like you would when you play tic-tac-toe. Once you have checked for a problem, named your problem and figured out your goal, and came up with some solutions, it's time to evaluate those solutions by figuring out the strengths and weaknesses of each one. Here are questions to help you evaluate solutions. Will it help me reach my goal? Do I have the resources I need? And does it follow the rules? Let's look at an example. There is no food in my house because I haven't had time to go grocery shopping, so I have nothing to pack for lunch. First, I C, check for a problem. That's an easy one. I can't make it the whole day without eating food. Next, I N, name the problem and the goal, which I have nothing to take to school for lunch, and my goal is that I need to figure out lunch and still be on time for work. So I T, think of solutions. I could 1. Go through the drive-thru on my way to school, 2. Call home to see if my husband can bring me lunch, or 3. Take another teacher's lunch from the refrigerator in the teacher's lounge. To R, respond with a plan. I must evaluate my solutions by asking myself, will it help me reach my goal of having lunch and being on time for work? Well, if I go through the drive-thru, I will have lunch but will be late, so the answer is no. If I call my husband and he can bring me lunch, I will have lunch and be on time. Same is true for taking another teacher's lunch. I will have reached my goals. Next, I need to ask, do I have the resources I need? Let's look at all three solutions again. First, I have a car and the money to go through the drive-thru, but I don't have enough time, so the answer is no. Next, I figured out my husband is home and can bring my lunch, so the answer is yes. Finally, many teachers leave their lunches in the refrigerator, so I would have the resources I need to have lunch. Finally, I asked, does it follow the rules? There are many different rules for school, home, and social settings, and even rules for citizens called laws. So, when I ask this question, I must think of which rules would apply for this example of not having food to take for lunch. First, I would not be breaking any rules by going through the drive-thru, but there are rules about teachers not being on time for class, so no, I would not be able to follow the rules. Next, I would not be breaking any rules by having my husband bring me lunch. Finally, I would be breaking the rules to take another teacher's lunch because it is stealing someone else's property. Now that I have evaluated all three solutions, I can decide which is best, a skill you will learn how to do in Lesson 8. Using Handout 7.2 in your student workbook, practice evaluating solutions using those three guiding questions which help you to identify their strengths and weaknesses. Pause the video while you read the scenario and answer each question on Handout 7.2. When you're done, press play. Let's turn to the content questions for Unit 4, Lesson 7 in your iControl student workbook to check your understanding of this lesson. Pause the video while you answer the questions. When you're done, press play. For question 1, if you selected C, you're correct. The fourth step in CNTRL is R, respond with a plan. For question 2, if you selected B, you're correct. The word evaluate means to find strengths and weaknesses. In Lesson 7, you learned the first step of R, respond with a plan, in the CNTRL problem-solving steps. You learned how to use three evaluating questions for each solution to determine their strengths and weaknesses. In Chapter 8, you will learn the rest of Step R, respond with a plan, which is to choose the best solution to solve your problem and reach your goal. You'll learn how to make a plan and carry it out. Let's look at an example. Your teacher sends you on an errand. You pass the principal in the hallway, and he asks in a gruff voice, "What are you doing in the hallway?" First, you come up with different solutions to the problem. You could run away, ignore the principal and keep walking, or respectfully explain where you were going. Let's consider the different consequences for each solution. If you run away, you are likely to get in trouble because you did not provide an answer and acted like you were doing something wrong. The same would be true for ignoring the principal and walking away. He might call your parents and give you detention. In Solution 3, however, the principal may allow you to continue your errand for the teacher because you told the truth and provided a reasonable explanation. Once you can determine which solution answers yes to all three evaluating questions, you are ready to complete the second part of R, respond with a plan. In Solutions 1 and 2, if you run away from the principal or ignore him and walk away, you will not reach your goal because you will get in trouble and you will not be able to finish the errand for your teacher. You would break the rule of not running in the hallway or responding to a teacher or administrator when spoken to. Plus, you are the teacher's resource for getting the errand done, so their resource, which is you, is now in detention. When the principal allows you to finish the errand in Solution 3, you reach your goal, you have the resource you need, you, to get the errand done, and you are following the rules because you were out of class with permission and respectfully told the principal the truth when he asked. Since we can answer yes to all three questions for Solution 3, you now have a plan. If your best solution can only answer yes to two of the questions, Think about which one will realistically provide the best outcome and links best to your values and goals. Imagining what it will look like and feel like to reach your goal can help you figure out which is the best solution. Now that you have picked the best solution to reach your goal, you carry out your plan by following 3 important strategies. 1. Stay committed to your goal to help you stay motivated when acting out your plan. 2. Sometimes a solution may take a long time to complete. You may have to monitor your progress and use reality checking to imagine what it'll take to reach your goal and stay on track. 3. Remember to stay in control of your emotions. You don't want your emotions to become barriers. For example, even though you have evaluated and selected the best solution of respectfully explaining to the principal where you were going, you might still be angry that he spoke to you gruffly. When you feel angry, you could take deep breaths and count to 10 in your head. You could also focus away your anger and think about the fun plans you have with your friends after school that you don't want to get in trouble and miss. By using these strategies to control your emotions, you can respond respectfully to the principal and reach your goal. Let's turn to the content questions for Unit 4, Lesson 8 in your iControl student workbook to check your understanding of this lesson. Pause the video while you answer the questions. When you're done, press play. For question 1, if you selected A, you're correct. The 2 parts to R, respond with a plan, are evaluate and choose and act out the plan. For question 2, if you selected D, you're correct. The best solution is the one that answers yes to all of the evaluating questions. In Lesson 9, you will review the steps to the problem-solving acronym CNTRL. In Step 1, you C, check for a problem, by looking at all 3 types of clues: emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. The second step is N, name the problem and the goal. In this step, you identify your goal and any barriers that might be in the way of reaching it. In Step 3, you T, think of solutions. You need to keep your goal in mind and think about how to move any barrier and reach the goal. While you do this, you might need to use strategies to control your emotions and stay calm so you can think of the best solutions. You also learned about 3 different strategies to help you T, think of solutions. You can use the brainstorming strategy and think of as many solutions as you can. You can also use what worked before, where you think about a similar problem you had in the past, how you solved it, and how it fits your current situation. Finally, you could use the strategy, what would someone else do, and think about how someone you know who makes good decisions would solve the problem. It's important to use different strategies to think of solutions because the first solution you think of may not be the best choice for solving the problem and reaching the goal, and some strategies simply may not work. Finally, it's time to R, respond with a plan, by evaluating your solutions, identifying the strengths and weaknesses of each plan, and selecting the plan which can answer yes to the following 3 questions. 1. Will it help me reach my goal? 2. Do I have the resources I need? And 3. Does it follow the rules? After you evaluate the solutions using the 3 questions, you're ready to choose the best solution and come up with a plan. Remember, when you are carrying out your plan, it's important to stay committed to your goal. Use reality checking, monitor how you're doing, and control your emotions. Now it's time to practice the first 4 steps of CNTRL. Locate handout 9.1 and 9.2. 9.2 will be 2 pages. Pause the video while you read the role play on handout 9.1 and complete handout 9.2. When you're done, press play. Let's turn to the content questions for Unit 4, Lesson 9 in your iControl student workbook to check your understanding of this lesson. Pause the video while you answer the questions. When you're done, press play. For question 1, if you selected D, you're correct. Christopher can use this strategy, what would someone else do, as an additional strategy. For question 2, if you selected D, you're correct. The best solution to reach her goal of cooking dinner and talking to her friend was to tell her friend she needs to cook and she will call her after dinner. Thank you for taking the time to catch up with iControl today. In the following lessons, you'll learn about the final step to the CNTRL problem-solving strategy.